In a landmark decision, a federal appeals court has ruled 7-4 that President Trump exceeded his constitutional authority when imposing sweeping global tariffs using emergency powers under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA. The court held that tariff setting is a core power of Congress, not the executive branch. This ruling targets the so-called Liberation Day tariffs, announced in April 2025, which imposed a 10% baseline tariff on most international imports, plus additional levies targeting trade partners like China, Canada, and Mexico. While the court struck down these tariffs, it has temporarily allowed them to remain in place until October 14th to provide time for the administration to seek a Supreme Court review. Stick around, because in this video, we'll walk through what the court's decision means legally and constitutionally, how the Trump administration is reacting, and what backup strategies are on deck, what this means for businesses, markets, and donors at home, how this case may reshape the balance of power between Congress and the president. The legal journey began with VOS Selections, Inc. v. United States, where small importers and a group of states challenged Trump's wide-ranging tariffs under IEEPA. On May 28, 2025, the U.S. Court of International Trade ruled those tariffs exceeded presidential authority and permanently blocked them. The court, in line with legal precedent under the Major Questions Doctrine, emphasized that implicit power is not enough for sweeping policy changes. Emergency powers must be narrowly construed. The ruling left unchanged those tariffs grounded under other statutes like Section 232, National Security, and Section 301, Unfair Trade Practices, which require formal investigations. In dramatic dissent, Trump called the decision a total disaster for the country, warning it could destroy the United States, and vowed to fight on via the Supreme Court. Despite the setback, the tariffs stay in effect, for now. The administration has multiple backup plans. Pursue an alternate legal argument. They may invoke Section 338 of the Trade Act of 1930, which offers emergency tariff authority with different conditions. Issue new executive orders using narrower statutory language to better align with legal frameworks. Pressure Congress into authorizing similar tariffs through legislative action, though lawmakers have resisted given political cost. International trade talks continue. The Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, USTR, insisted negotiations with global partners remain ongoing, signaling hope that trade deals can proceed amid legal uncertainties. For now, Trump posts defiant statements on platforms like Truth Social. All tariffs are still in effect. The United States of America will win in the end. Republican leaders echo that narrative, framing the ruling as partisan interference and reinforcing urgency to restore executive authority. Legally, this decision sets a major precedent. If upheld by the Supreme Court, executive overreach during emergencies may be significantly curtailed. IEEPA has been used in rare cases for sanctions and freezes, but never for broad economic tools like tariffs. Trump's approach was unprecedented and quickly challenged. The appeals ruling reinforces that even in emergencies, the Constitution demands a clear directive from Congress for policymaking. That standard applies to future administrations, regardless of party. The case highlights the non-delegation doctrine, reminding lawmakers that Congress cannot grant unchecked regulatory power to the executive. The case joins a line of high-profile Supreme Court cases that limit executive authority, like CIP-CSA and previous rulings on administrative overreach and removal protections. Expect the Supreme Court to decide this before mid-2026. That ruling will define emergency powers, trade authority, and the boundaries of presidential reach for decades. President Trump's tariffs were deeply consequential, not just legal, but economic. In August 2025 alone, these tariffs brought in over $30 billion. That money was projected to help offset trillions in tax cuts and fund domestic and immigration programs. Markets now face volatility. Treasury yields could rise if tariff revenue vanishes, increasing borrowing costs. Businesses face unpredictable supply costs, especially in agriculture, manufacturing, key sectors in core states like Iowa. Inflation risks loom if markets no longer expect those tariffs, affecting consumer prices. Reuters and economists warn the decision may trigger a rise in issuance and push yields higher without new revenues. For small importers and businesses who paid tariff costs, the ruling opens the road to litigation for reimbursements, potentially billions in claims. Internationally, uncertainties may chill trade talks amid legal limbo. Allies and adversaries may hesitate to move forward if agreement terms rely on now contested tariffs. Here's what to watch in the coming months. Supreme Court showdown. The appeals ruling will likely be reviewed by the Supreme Court by early 2026. Justices may be guided by the major questions doctrine, previously used to rein in administrative overreach. Court watchers say its outcome will redefine the scope of presidential trade powers, even beyond Trump's tenure. Congressional reactions. Some lawmakers may propose legislation clarifying emergency tariff authority, though legislative gridlock and political risk remain high. Committees and hearings may follow, examining executive power abuses and oversight mechanisms. Political framing. Trump and allies will position this as judicial overreach and partisan activism. Opponents, including business groups and small businesses, will argue the ruling protects the Constitution and prevents unchecked executive power. This case may shape the broader messaging of both parties heading into 2026 elections. Global and business response. USTR continues negotiation, but businesses and markets need longer clarity. Companies may accelerate next quarter CFO projections and pricing adjustments to hedge legal risk. This ruling is a pivotal moment at the crossroads of law, economics, and politics. It poses the question, how far can a president go on emergency powers without congressional approval? A U.S. appeals court has underscored a clear message. Even in crisis, constitutional boundaries matter. While Trump's tariff policy remains temporarily in place, the ruling shakes the foundation of executive overreach. Now, eyes turn to the Supreme Court, where a historic ruling could either reaffirm presidential flexibility or rein in emergency power altogether. Markets, businesses, and presidential scholars are watching every angle. Will this decision uphold the separation of powers, and what will be the cost if it doesn't? If you want clear, facts-first analysis on pivotal constitutional and economic stories, subscribe to Politics Unpacked. We bring you the clarity behind the headlines.